When Colin asked if I wanted to introduce Shaun King, I was beyond excited. I followed Shaun King's voice for 3 years, through each injustice, through each hashtag, and found inspiration in his unapologetic advocacy of stories that often go unnoticed. Shaun King is an American writer and civil rights activist. He is the senior justice writer for the New York Daily News and a political commentator for the Young Turks, and previously a writer for the Daily Kos. By using media to highlight civil rights issues, King has become an indispensable source for extending crucial conversations about social justice and equality. As a social entrepreneur, King worked as the CEO and founder of both Twit Change, which won the Mashable Award for the most creative social good campaign, and Hope Mob. He is the author of The Power of 100 and has raised nearly $10 million for charities and causes across the globe. He is the recipient of the Epoch Humanitarian Award and the Hometown Hero Award from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. For me, Shaun King is a constant reminder. He doesn't let me forget what's happening, doesn't let me ignore it, doesn't let me fall to apathy or indifference, but is a constant reminder that change requires passionate belief, awareness, and action. He is the voice of reason in the midst of uncertainty and the heart of a movement, always reminding that injustice never makes sense, that this should never start to feel normal, and we can't just get used to it. When Shaun King writes, he writes for communities far beyond his own. He doesn't just speak from afar, but marches through streets for what he believes in, with an understanding that our liberation is tied in each other's. He reminds me of the power we all have, and his existence fills me with inspiration in understanding what my place is in changing what comes after. So without further ado, I'm humbled to present the Visionary Award to Shaun King.
Well, thank you, Shaun, for that introduction. It's my honor to be here and to be here with you all. As we commented earlier, the view is amazing, but I will say table number 4 is the best table. Just a competitive guy, so enjoy talking with all of you here at table number 4. But I do want to thank a few people. First and foremost, I'm honored to have my wife Ray here tonight. I often get recognized, but it really is a team effort, and I could not do what I do without her by my side, so thank you so much. I'm 37, it tells our age, so I'm 37, but we've been together for now almost 22 years. So honored to, it really is no me without her, and so honored to be here with her. I'm also thankful for all the honorees. Thank you to Imam Khalid Latif. This is our first time meeting, but everybody I know who knows you speaks so well of you, and so glad to be here with you tonight as well. And I just texted with my good friend Linda Sarsour, who is on an airplane, and she said to tell you all hello. And she's a constant inspiration, and it's really I call her my peer hero in a lot of ways. I admire her and her activism. You know, I thought long and hard about what I wanted to talk about just for a few minutes tonight. And even though many of you know me for the stories that I write, and it's funny because for a lot of you, this is your first time seeing me in person, you know me as a Facebook profile picture. So it's kind of weird seeing the profile picture walk and talk and move. But a lot of you know me from the stories that I tell, the injustice that I cover. But this is a very informed audience, and I do not think that you need me to inform you about injustice that affects Muslims here in America or around the world. And so I want to take a little time out to tell you some of my story of how I got to be who I am, because it's my hope that I could be your friend, your comrade, your supporter, and march and fight alongside you for many years to come. My family and I just moved to New York this past summer from Brooklyn, and so we're still using Google Maps religiously to get around. And so as a new New Yorker, I'm honored to be here, but I want to tell you some of my story. 24 years ago, in a small rural town outside of Lexington, Kentucky, I was starting high school after what I thought at the time was the absolute best summer of my life. I'd worked all summer at the local Dairy Queen, and I was 14, and I'd made a few $1,000s, which to me was like millions of dollars. I spent every single dime of the money that I had, some of you may know these names, on cross colors, and Carl Kanai outfits. This may surprise you, but I spent most of my money on gold chains and rings, fresh haircuts every week, music. I love the music. I purchased every hip hop cassette, CD that I could get my hands on. And with what money I had left, I purchased DJ equipment, including turntables, cassette decks, amps, a set of speakers. That summer, my friends and I frequented a club in Lexington made for teenagers called Club Zero. It's a terrible name when I think about it now in retrospect, but we loved it. That was a few years before I met my wife, and so I had 2 or 3 girlfriends that summer. And you could not tell me that I was anything other than the coolest 14-year-old in Kentucky. High school, I thought, was going to be a smooth continuation of middle school, where I was a pretty popular student leader. I know it's like a humble brag, but when I would visit high school basketball games as a middle school kid, high school girls used to tell me that they could not wait till I got to high school. All summer, I could not wait for my freshman year in high school. My head was this big. Could not wait to get there. It only took me a few days to learn that Woodford County High School was not really a dream destination for me, but it really turned out to be a dungeon in a lot of ways. Racism and bigotry were rampant in the school and went virtually unchecked by the all-white administration there at the school. 18-year-old rural farming students who called themselves rednecks walked the halls like they owned the place. The school literally allowed them to chew tobacco and spit the spit in jars in class. That's the type of school that I went to. I was 14, but I looked like I was 12. I hardly weighed 110 pounds. Now I found myself among students who had full beards and looked like grown men. And they hated me without even knowing me. The first week of school, I had to very physically break up a fight between a black friend of mine and a white student who I had been friends with for most of my life, but who was very close with the rednecks at the school. I didn't think much about it. The next day, I noticed a lot of people staring at me. The day after that, I started noticing people pointing at me. The day after that, at a high school football game, students that I had never met, who were friends with that white student whose fight I broke up, tried to jump me at the football game. That moment where the students tried to jump me turned into a series of highly charged racial fights at the game, between black and white students primarily. And it was vicious. Many people were hurt that night. I was not even there for any of it, because many of the fights, as they broke out, some parents rushed me out of the stadium to protect me. And the fights that evening, unbeknownst to me, morphed into a debate about the Confederate flag. The following Monday, when I arrived at school, the school announced that they had decided to ban the Confederate flag. If you had it on your clothes, your hats, your cars, or anywhere on school property, it was no longer allowed. Mind you, this was in 1993. And they called me to the office. The principal told me that I was receiving a 3-day out-of-school suspension for the fight that I had been in, even though I didn't start it and didn't want to be in it. While I was gone for those 3 days, white students staged a series of walkouts demanding that they be allowed to wear their Confederate flag memorabilia. It became a major local news story that was on the news throughout central Kentucky. But the school did not relent. When I came back to school from my suspension on Friday, something strange had happened. Every redneck in the school, hundreds of them, saw me as the primary reason their Confederate flags had been banned. I had nothing to do with it. I'd been rushed away from the stadium that prior Friday, but on this Friday, I became the focus of white anger and frustration, and it stayed that way for 18 of the worst months of my life. On that first day back in school, students started intentionally bumping into me in the hallway. Soon it morphed into students breaking into my locker and stealing all of my books and supplies. It happened all the time. Then it morphed into students calling me racial slurs, sometimes just in my presence. Then it morphed into students calling me names right to my face. I would report all of this to my teachers and to the principals and to my mother. Nothing happened. Then it morphed into students spitting on my book bag, which at the time was just gross and nasty, but it was deeply offensive. Then I noticed a few days later, students went from spitting on my book bag to spitting on the back of my shirt. Then it morphed into a student throwing an open jar of tobacco spit right in my face. The administration did nothing. I rushed home that day to change. That year, my freshman year, I missed almost 40 days of school. I would sign the absentee notes myself. I would just forge them. Then one evening, walking home from a school dance, a group of white students driving a pickup truck chased me in their truck and nearly ran me over. I saw their faces, knew their names, and I reported it the following Monday at my mother's urging. Nothing happened. A few months later, it happened again. This time I was in my neighborhood. I had to literally run onto a neighbor's porch to narrowly avoid being mauled by another truck full of young men calling me a nigger. A few weeks later, men in a pickup truck came to my house and peeled out their tires in my mother's front yard until they were chased away by a neighbor with a flashlight. Finally, in March of 1995, my whole life changed. No one ever messed with me again after this day. They didn't have to. A group of about 20 white students, both boys and girls, surrounded me in the hallway of my school, creating a human barrier around me. And it happened within seconds. The first blow hit me in the back of the head, and I began being pummeled from every side. What seemed like hours was really only seconds, and I crumpled to the ground, my glasses knocked from my face, and I curled up in a fetal position as young men with steel-toed boots stomped me on every side. When it was all said and done, I had fractures in my face and ribs. My sinuses were severely damaged and still are today. But the worst injuries were to my spine. I missed the rest of my sophomore year and all of my junior year of high school, recovering from 3 brutal spinal surgeries. My body was crushed, but what it did to my spirit changed the entire trajectory of my life. While recovering from my 3rd spinal surgery, I read a book that showed me the power of who and what I could become. It was not the Quran, it was not the Bible, it was the autobiography of Malcolm X. There, literally on my bed, recovering from surgery, I saw a transformational story of a young man whose life plunged so far into the depths of hell while he was in prison that guards called him Satan. Yet somehow he emerged out of prison a deeply changed man, devoted to Islam, devoted to justice, and devoted to living a very different life. And in many ways, the example that Malcolm set paved the way for me to find my way out of the depths of hell I found my own self in. I loved him so much that I even began visiting a local mosque for midday prayer with my friend Calvin, who was considering converting to Islam. But to be honest, I mainly did it to get out of class. As I recovered from those surgeries, I was a new person. I had a heart for justice. I had a heart for people who were hurting, both physically and emotionally. I was a pretty good kid before that, but it shaped the way that I saw the world. I had a heart for people who were being mistreated or abused or discriminated against. Not a single person was ever held responsible for what happened to me on that day. But I made the decision not to be bitter about it. Instead, I chose to fight for other people. Before I graduated high school, I met my wife, who's here with me this evening. I think she would tell you I was probably the most serious teenager she had ever met. But she saw something in me, and she stuck with me for over 20 years. She's in a lot of ways my secret sauce, and she keeps me fresh. She also keeps me humble. It never allows me to worry much about the good or the bad that people say about me. I told you that story, my origin story, if you will, because I want you to know where I come from. I want you to know how I got started on this journey of fighting for justice. And I want you to hear this story from me, because I plan on fighting alongside you together for many years to come. Also wanted you to hear how essential a Muslim man was in my own transformational journey. Now, hear my heart. I believe we are very literally in the fight of our lives. Anyone who knows me knows that I'm an incredibly optimistic person. But I do think some of the fights and challenges that are ahead will be some of the most difficult days we've ever faced. These 2 weeks, if anything, have shown us they've in some ways felt like 2 years. So much has happened, many with long-term consequences already. I hope in every way that you will see me not just as an ally, but as a friend. And as has been pledged by so many others from this stage, I do want to say that I want you to hear it from me. I'm here for you. I will continue to tell not just stories of pain, but also stories of triumph and success as we have them. And there is a bit of a benefit. Because I'm not a Muslim man, there is a way that I can tell stories of Islamophobia that are substantially different than the way you feel you are able to tell them. And so I will continue to tell these stories as plainly and as aggressively as I can to push these stories into the mainstream of America. Thank you so much for this honor, and I'm glad to be here again with you this evening. Take care.